again. I am Beowulf. I am Beowulf. Tony? Tony, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Come with me. Buying a new TV. I need your credit card.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh my.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The last time I do this, I'll be in the trunk, take you out. Fucking Jesus. Okay. Whew. Fuck have you been eating? You've been a bag for a month. How have you been eating so much? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Tony, on this final episode of the Year of the Auteur, I ask you one simple question.
What's that?
Does auteurship really mean anything? Is the author truly dead?
I don't know, man.
Well, that may literally be the case for today's director. The film we are wrapping up the Year of the Auteur on is a film that is almost entirely confronting the idea and the validity of the idea of the auteur in of itself. Now, I don't really have much to say besides that.
Short answer.
Going into this. I will have more to say afterwards, but why don't you go ahead and reach in the bag now. Pretty sure I just got the film in here this time. There's no rats. There's no portal to God.
Okay, no
There's
silly
nothing
little
like
bit.
that, so I think we should be...
Okay, well, I feel something. What have I got here? Is it? Is this the Necronomicon from Evil Dead?
Yes.
Oh,
The Blu-ray should be in there as well.
oh God. Oh, there she is.
Here she is.
We got F for fake.
F for Fake. The film, we are wrapping up my year on the film that will complete the Year of the Auteur, but also be the last film after the first film we watched this year of Orson Welles, 1973's F for Fake. It is a documentary, an essay, a postmodern head trip. F for Fake is so many things while also being exceedingly simple and running at 89 minutes long. This film was released in 1973 and has a rather strange production that I only feel is appropriate to explain after we have watched the film itself. I think this is a experience that benefits very much from going in blind.
Okay.
This is a film directed by Orson Welles, starring Orson Welles himself, along with gaggles of other colorful characters who are both real people and also the personas they portray. It's also co-written and co-starring Oja Kadar, a talented woman in her own right, but also was Welles' mistress at the time. She is also the current head of the Welles estate. The most I can say about this film is that it starts as a documentary about art forgery and then becomes so much more. This is the definition of a movie made in the edit, and the editing itself is a beauty to behold. Tony, do you know anything about this?
I don't know anything about this film. From the way that you have introduced it to me, either this is one very long joke that you're playing on me, and this is going to be complete and utter dog shit, or this is going to be like legitimately very fascinating and very interesting in a way that I haven't considered as we've been doing this whole auteurship theme thing that we've been doing this month. I don't know. It could be just about anything. If I'm just going off of Citizen Kane being the main thing I know Orson Welles from, I have no reason to believe that this will suck ass.
If you think this movie's bad, I will legitimately reconsider our friendship.
That's been a running joke, but is that this like the absolute pinnacle of that idea?
I don't think so, but the thing that, I guess the other thing I can talk about with this is Wells' whole thing is he is not here to revolutionize pre-established ideas.
Okay.
He is here to get a group of talented people together and revolutionize something to make a movie in a way that you've never seen it before. If I can say anything, every shitty documentary and every shitty video essay is trying their fucking hardest to be F for fake. Ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in for some Orson Welles talking to the camera and maybe a little bit of close-up hand magic. Today, we are watching F for Fake.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies.
You don't talk about Napoleon or Julius Caesar. You're talking about Elmire.
Elmire?
Elmire?
Who is Elmire? That question has yet to be answered with any real precision.
Can I kiss you too? Anybody wants to eat?
In the world of the jet setters among us beautiful people, everybody knows Elmire. But Elmire what?
He has about 60 times the same name.
Dihori?
His called his made Ori, Uri, Bori, Suri, Kori, Bari, Dori, all the...
Pourquoi pas?
With U-R-Y, 60 names.
His real name was Elmire Ferenc Huffman.
Then 60 personalities, as much lies and as much real.
Well, sounds very Jesuitic.
Yes, his world is a world of make-believe.
I'm not an actor.
Not an actor. Elmire.
I'm not an actor. I am not a professional actor.
He's a leading actor in this movie. His profession, it's true, is painting fakes. Among all fakers, Elmire is number 2.
Once, I saw a man from Ibiza writing a book on fake who came to see me to Paris. He said, I heard you are the first man who bought an Elmire.
And that man's name was...
Clifford Irving.
The important distinction to make when you're talking about the genuine quality of a painting is not so much whether it's a real painting or a fake. It's whether it's a good fake or a bad fake.
Tony, would you care to give the audience a brief plot synopsis for the very simple, very traditional film, Orson Welles, 1973, F for Fake?
He's a fraud. They're all frauds. Hack frauds.
Oh, would you just look at that? You fraud! You fucking fraud! This is bullshit. This is utter bullshit.
Orson Welles sets up via fucking close hand magic a little mystery tale that we're gonna tell you for the next hour.
Almost any story is almost certainly some kind of lie. But not this time. No, this is a promise. During the next hour, everything you'll hear from us is really true and based on solid facts.
He promises that the next hour is gonna be real, and he talks about in this hour a faker, someone who makes fake paintings. He talks about a faker potentially who was documenting that faker, and he kind of weaves the two stories together along with some other various potential truths and potential lies.
Anecdotes, we'll call them.
Anecdotes, the likes of which confuse the viewer intentionally into wondering what really is true and what really isn't true. Until he comes to the last 17 to 20 minutes of the story, where he tells an obviously fake story about Picasso and a beautiful woman, and he reveals that the last 20 minutes are fake, but that made for a much more cohesive and interesting story. So one has to ask, what is truly art, I suppose, is the closest thing to a plot synopsis I'm gonna get with this sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I understand, and I asked you for a difficult task. Tony, what did you think of Effort Fake?
It's very, very good. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting way of telling this sort of story. I could see how people would fucking hate it. I could see tuning in on a fucking Sunday afternoon to see a new movie at the fucking theater and not really knowing what this is or having any press or whatever. Not going in just being like, okay. He did he followed through on all of his promises. He did not lie for an hour, and he set up the story. He didn't cheat anybody out of anything. Mm-hmm. But I can see very easily how people would feel like, you fucking cheated me. You fake.
For one, fuck you.
Hypothetical
Secondly,
person, yeah.
no one would have wandered into this on an afternoon because this was not distributed in the United States. He offered this up to several studios, and no one wanted to take it. He says, I brought this over, and it was opened in 4 theaters in Paris. And those all had, lines going around the block. But no one in America wanted to take a chance on my movie, which, how much of that is tying into this film, Welles over embellishing a story like Elmire.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the other stuff, like the documentarian of Elmire's fakeness, who ended up faking an entire biography on Howard Hughes.
Here's how he's supposed to have looked, based on Irving's reports of those secret meetings, which in fact never happened. But who cared about facts? Was Mr. Hughes a vegetable?
The production of this movie, which I very much held forth from you, because I did not want that to shape the way you were watching it.
Yeah.
So, this was originally not a film directed by Orson Welles.
Okay.
All of the interview clips you are seeing at the very beginning of the film, Orson states, I met this man who you will get to know very soon. And it's the cinematographer, the man behind the camera, the balding dude.
Speaking of magicians, I mean? No, of course not. But of course you do know my partner, Francois Reichenbach.
Hello.
He originally directed a documentary, and that was sort of a filmed, researched, interviewed version of this biography that had come out by Clifford Irving. Clifford Irving is the guy who did the Fake Hughes documentary, or the Fake Hughes biography, right?
Yes.
And while that was all happening, there have been some conflicting reports, but in the Peter Bogdanovich sort of introduction that this Blu-ray has, the general consensus is he was asking Welles to do the voiceover, because that was a lot of Welles's gigs outside of making movies. He's a radio guy.
Yeah.
And Orson Welles has one of the best voices in the world. So, it's just he's going to be the sort of Morgan Freeman, to put it in a modern context, what he was doing. He was going to narrate this. And he says, something's not working about this, and I can't exactly figure it out. And Irving had just gotten outed in the news recently for the whole Howard Hughes thing. And he asked Welles to kind of just go over a lot of the footage. And Welles was he asks Welles, can you please just try and help me with this? And Welles says, I'm noticing something here. Can I, tinker with this? And tinkering with it turned into Welles hiring a bunch of editors he could supervise, and then shooting footage of his own, and then changing stuff around until the movie is no longer what the original intent was. And Welles had taken the hours of footage, cut it down, and repurposed it in of itself, and made his own movie.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a fake Orson Welles movie. Like with Pablo Picasso, I have done 1,000 Picassos in my life, I know how to paint a fake Picasso. I think this movie makes its intentions pretty clear from the start. The opening credits sequence with Oya Kodar, his mistress at the time, his 24-year-old mistress, with the man watching, the woman watching sequence. It's funny and everything, and I would believe that all of that footage is actually captured of someone watching a pretty woman walking around and, the male gaze showing at her body. But on a rewatch, something in my brain could not get the Kuleshov effect out of my head. I've talked about the Kuleshov effect on the show before. For those of you who don't know, the Kuleshov effect is sort of like the psychological impact that editing has. Yeah. Putting two shots next to each other, even if they're identical, and then putting another shot next to one of the other shots, and it creates a different effect. My brain kept thinking, did you get a bunch of footage of your mistress walking around in skimpy outfits? I mean, skimpy outfits just, looking beautiful. Yeah. And did you cut it together with a bunch of men just making faces? Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So, like, the conceit of it's a lie.
Yeah, no, what are these men really reacting to?
Yeah.
And, what else could you have shown or said to these men that would get them to act that way, that would get them to react that sort of way?
They're not even making particularly out their faces when you're just putting it in the context of the isolated footage. Everyone looks weird when you're filming them without their consent. Like, it's not... It seems like, they're specifically going and making faces that are, like, sort of indicative of the fact that they're being perverts.
Yes.
But that's not necessarily true. But that being said, I think the production of this movie is interesting and fascinating and really does play into this whole conceit of auteurship that we've been talking about all year. If auteurship is sort of all about the almost innate recognizability of what you are seeing on screen and being like, you're able to look at that and be, that is a Sam Raimi movie, or in this case, that is a Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Yeah.
Or all these kinds of things. And you were to look at this and be like, that is an Orson Welles movie, but then half the footage, Orson Welles wasn't there during the process of filming it.
Yeah.
What does that say about auteurship, and what does that say about us and us being supposed experts, as the film likes to state over and over again?
One nod from an expert in that piece of canvas would be worth maybe a couple of $100,000.
So what does that say about auteurship? God, I don't know. Realistically, anybody at any point in time can profess to themselves or to the world that they are the expert on X with any amount of knowledge or lack thereof. Tomorrow I could go out and choose an artist and say, I'm going to look at their art and say, I know how they do things, how specifically they layer paint. I could talk about a Rothko and say, well, there's something very specific about the way that he layers paint to make it deep and imposing and to give a richness to these colors that are on the canvas. But I'm sure at some point Rothko changed or altered or manipulated his process and started making something different. Maybe something that's not available to me, maybe something that's under a different name, maybe something that he just never showed to anybody. And if you were to show those things to me and say, oh, is this a Rothko? I might take my infinite knowledge of the few grand paintings that he's got hung up in the modern arts museums, and I might say, well, no, of course not. It doesn't fall within these sorts of guidelines of what he does as an artist. But that is me, in a way, limiting the human being, Rothko, to just these paintings that I know about. And that's really a little fucked up of me to think that I have the right to do.
And in the same way, if someone were to make a fake Rothko.
If someone could, there are people that have scientifically engineered, okay, this is exactly how his paint is put together. It's this layering of oils and I think formaldehydes and stuff that makes the colors that he uses, and they could go in layer by layer microscopically and figure out this is kind of the brushstrokes that he does, this is kind of how he does it, and they could reasonably create very, very convincing fake Rothkos.
Yeah,
things that he...
and not even reproductions I'm talking about. Just saying in the style of what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
This
Use
isn't
the
Rothko.
same...
Does that make it any less valid art?
That's a really fucking interesting thing. It's, it definitely makes it fake in our idea of what we consider important on a day-by-day basis, like the names attributed to the things that we see, I guess.
Okay, you say that, but then we have an auteur like Quentin Tarantino,
Yeah.
whose entire filmography is based off of emulating derivative material by other filmmakers, other artists,
Yeah.
and putting it together. Is that any different?
I would say possibly not. It's one of those things. Because there's an art to faking art, I guess. Like I said,
copying
or faking, or however you want to say it. If someone wanted to make a brilliant looking Rothko, a big 40 by 40 canvas, and dedicate their life to making sure that it looks just the way that Rothko would make something like that, and if he sells it to a museum and they say, beautiful, and they put it up on the wall, and they pay a grand amount of money for it, or perhaps a lesser amount of money, whatever, then it's still important. It's still being put up on a wall and looked at by human beings, and that's kind of our measure of importance.
Yeah, and they're only taking it seriously because it has that name attached to it.
When first the flush of a newborn sun fell on the green and gold, our father Adam sat under the tree and scratched with a stick in the mold. And the first rude sketch that the world had seen was joy to his mighty heart, till the devil whispered behind the leaves. It's pretty, but is it art?
And then that questions into the whole account of like experts and how biased are they really, how unbiased are they? And then I guess the question that I then have off of that is Elmire, in all accounts, not for the money he stole, based off of these ignorant people, and granted, even then, he tricked them. Is he a true scumbag? Because before you answer this, there is the context. He was being chased by various governments for the money he stole. And I think it's 4 years after this movie came out, because he realized he was going to get caught, he committed suicide. To avoid entrapment, basically.
To avoid being sent to an American prison somewhere, probably.
Is Elmire a scumbag, or is he as a man who flaunted this fake illusion of wealth when he really had no money? And as Orson Welles puts him, he's a Hungarian huckster. He wants you to think he's a con man. And is he actually a con man? Does he actually have money? I don't know, because the movie's very all over the place on that. Is Elmire a bad person? And should he have been incarcerated for what he did?
I think the thing that makes people care about Elmire and hype up this character that he is, or this scumbaggery, is just how big in scale his con got.
Yeah.
I could totally fucking understand, I could totally see if he were to do one painting and sell it to get out of some bad debt sometime, somewhere, people being like, well, that's not that big a deal. Someone selling a fake Picasso one time to pay off whatever, to get their rent taken care of. I don't think anyone would care about that, because they feel like that's a victimless crime, that really doesn't affect anything, that's not the biggest deal in the world. It means one person, has a fake Picasso hanging up in their attic somewhere. But it's just the scale and the grandiosity of the thing that he did that makes it seem noteworthy and worthy of that sort of thing.
I don't feel bad for Modigliani. I feel good for me.
Something I find interesting about it is this whole conceit that Irving even states. Now, this whole thing, then we get into Clifford Irving, but Irving even states, I don't think he's a criminal at one point. And It's just like he is ostensibly just doing this to survive. And then you get into the big question. The people that he is scamming by taking their money for buying these paintings, a lot of these reputable art dealers are not necessarily buying it because they love art. They're buying it because it's a name and they know they could make money by hanging it in a gallery and possibly getting it sold to someone.
Yeah, selling tickets to the local museum by saying we have more Picassos.
Yeah. So in that instance, is he just playing the system? Because the system is ostensibly rigged. Is he just playing this system of art as commerce versus, art for the sake of art?
Well, I guess the answer there lies in another question. Say there's a man named fucking John down the way who also does paintings, and he's done a lot of paintings. And maybe there's one in a cafe that you like or whatever, but otherwise not important, never been like talked about in any magazines, never been part of like a study hall in an Ivy League sort of school or anything like that. If Elmire were faking those kinds of paintings, that John's paintings, would anyone really truly care? It's maybe John would, that he's faking John's paintings, but
but Elmire wouldn't paint those kinds of paintings because the whole point of it is to profit off of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why specifically he's doing the ones that he's doing, because they are famous and have enough mystique. These artists, I'm assuming, like Picasso, have like points in time where they just kind of weren't doing anything, or perhaps like lapses in time where it makes sense in a weird narrative kind of way, where there'd be these lost paintings that someone could just stumble across.
Yeah.
And obviously he's doing that. Why is he doing that? To cover his expenses, to continue living the way that he's living. And it all kind of culminates in this idea that the place that he was living in technically wasn't even his.
Yeah.
Because he was getting just scammed by some of these same people that were buying the paintings from him.
Because even the roof of that house doesn't belong to me. I don't have a dime to my name.
So after all these long years on the run, even now after his final reformation as a forger, Elmire can't feel much real security in this last refuge in what people like to call the golden years.
A little bit of luck.
Is it scamming, or is it ostensibly a favor because he's able to live somewhere? To me, the way it came off as is, it's not that he's getting scammed by these art dealers, it's that they're ostensibly allowing him, knowing they're being scammed, to continue to put up this facade of this extravagant lifestyle.
I feel in a way it's kind of like a scam, because at any point in time they have the power to just pull the rug and ruin this man's life and livelihood. But that's the part that always that is the part that kind of confuses the whole situation, is that by technicality, both parties are lying.
Yeah.
Really you have to ask yourself, who's worse? The person who actually produces the fake Picassos, or the people who are basically keeping him hostage so that they can continue making money off those fake Picassos?
And then, of course, you then have to start asking the questions about the reason Welles decided to take this over and make it his collaborative effort in the first place.
No.
Which is Irving. Irving's an interesting character of a man.
My personal feelings about Elmire are very mixed. He has developed a fiction about his life, and to destroy that fiction would tear down the whole castle that he's built of his illusions.
He recognizes, because he was able to identify it in the first place, how the system is broken with someone like Elmire, because he's a con man himself. He goes out and writes this whole fake Hughes biography, who we don't know who really exposed him or possibly got him scammed in the first place. The movie possibly proposes that maybe it was Elmire who was involved in this, trying to get back at him for exposing him. But then really does kind of introduce this idea of, once again, the whole thing of experts, and what Wells is trying to get at with this, which is in this world of trying to say that this thing is valuable because this person's name is attached to it, we then have what is ultimately going to matter in a century. When all names are stripped away, when Wells is talking about this big cathedral in this European country, does an artist's name really actually matter?
Our works in stone, in paint, in print are spared, some of them for a few decades or a millennium or two, but everything must finally fall in war or wear away into the ultimate and universal ash. The triumphs and the frauds, the treasures and the fakes.
And with authorship, let's go on with Wells. A lot of people consider his best skill as an auteur, and I would say this is a skill of an artist, not just someone who, you know, has all these specific ideas, but hiring and gathering together the best people possible, because that is an important job as a director, is getting talented people together. That's what makes all of his great movies as great as they are, is getting all these people that are more talented than him in certain areas. And he recognized, with this cinematographer who was directing it, this is good footage. I can use this. And use all my skills. Is Wells unaware of his own talent as an auteur? Is him not believing in authorship, maybe not hypocritical, but kind of ridiculous because of his own skills? Or is his whole opinion on, does an artist's name really matter at the end of the day if your art stands the test of time centuries from now? Should we, in this year, be examining people like Coppola and their personal views? Well, you can't really examine right now art in a bottle. Like you know, well, you right now can't examine art in a vacuum, separating it, because we are in the age of information. We know so much about these people. Should we be worrying so much about that and not just examining art for what it is?
I mean, we live in an age of information, right? Like you say, you know, everybody and everything's kind of got a Wikipedia page about it, and due to a large network of people being actually, you know, it's generally fairly accurate. You can go generally off of what is on that massive compendium of human knowledge, but you live in the fear that at any given moment, on any given day, something has changed and you haven't noticed. So realistically, you can't even say every single thing that you read about whoever, about Coppola, about anyone really, is 100% accurate. You know, who's really faking what at what point in time, who's changing what at what point in time. And
history is written by the winners.
And right now we're living in a day and age where that's being exacerbated tens or hundreds of thousands of times over, considering just how quickly fakes can be just produced and produced and produced.
Wells is a fucking prophet in that sense.
Yeah. There's something to be said about paying attention to what the piece is in reality, instead of like the people behind it and who they are as people and how those things sort of all come together. But I don't think that it's worth completely tossing out the idea of authorship, right?
Yeah.
You just need to come at it with the caveat of, you know, some bits of history are not as they seem. You were not in the room where it happened, and you could never really truly know every minute decision that went into making this sort of thing. You can't really be a true expert on whoever you want to talk about.
But then also what then becomes interesting about this is he seems to kind of be obsessed with this idea of, you know, separating the art from the artist, not in the traditional sense, but kind of just like looking at the art on its own. But Wells then also insists on putting himself in front of the camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of introduction, this is a film about trickery and fraud, about lies. Tell it by the fireside or in a marketplace or in a movie.
Multiple times throughout his career. So then you have to ask, it's like, okay, you want me to separate you from your own work. but also you are so much a part of your own work.
Yeah.
But that's also the persona of yourself, not necessarily the real you. So I don't know, I think what's interesting about discussing this and what makes this, this fucking beautiful fucking film so great, and what makes it art, is that it is provoking these discussions and these questions, and not having concrete answers. I only found this out, while I was researching for this episode. This is, one of Matt Johnson's favorite films of all time.
Okay.
And when you know how Matt Johnson, director of The Dirties, Blackberry, Operation Avalanche, Nirvana, the band, the show, when you understand how his filmmaking process works, and then you examine this...
It's like it all makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the best part is, it's like you listen to Matt Johnson talk about this, he has a lot of, supposed facts, possibly facts wrong about this. But it's like this realization when he was young, it's just like, oh, you can just, completely bullshit the line between reality and, fiction, however you want with art. And it doesn't make a fucking difference.
So Grant Morrison, they have this whole line, this whole speech about Superman. I think it was around when they wrote Superman All-Stars. We have them all up on the walls when I'm thinking about it. They said something to the effect of Superman touches people in ways that others will never do. Here we are doing our little YouTube show, and however many people are going to see this, and Superman has brought joy to millions, maybe even 1 billion people across the world, right?
Yeah.
Who's more real, us or Superman?
Superman is a character that was around long before I was born. He's a character who'll be around long after I'm dead. So what is he? He's more real than I am. He's more part of the world than I can ever hope to be.
Superman's got a real tangible effect on the world that people can measure. They make costumes about him and people do movies about him, and there's this whole mythology about this character who has been made up for comics and for movies and so on and so forth. But Grant Morrison goes on to say that's almost more important than just being around in some ways. If you really want to get down to brass tacks, is what effect do you have on the world?
So this is where I would like to get into a discussion of genre and its importance, or maybe in this film's case, its lack thereof.
Okay.
I've talked with you quite a bit to where I'm genre is great for very logistical, logical categorizing. It helps you distinguish certain things. I remember one time we were talking about, I was showing you Paramore for the first time, and you're like, this is really great, but it's kind of it feels like punk, but it's kind of got a poppy sound to it. And I'm like, yeah, pop punk. And you're like, oh, I guess that's what that means. So it's good for stuff like that, but it can also put you in a box a lot. The thing that I love about this movie is what I was doing when I was trying to describe it to you in the opening. This film cannot be held down by genre. It's a documentary. It's a piece of fiction. It's also spoken word. It's a video essay.
And it is close-up hand magic
as
well.
For those of you who don't know, let's put a fucking video up on screen right now. Orson Welles loves magic. He has loved magic since he was a kid. He famously talked about when his dad was taking him on the road when he was much younger before he abandoned him.
Yes.
And sent him off to a foreign country where he had no money. He learned hand magic from Houdini. So he goes I'm nowhere near, the skill of Houdini, but he goes, he was my teacher. And since then he goes it's just been a continued hobby of mine that I really enjoy. So Wells then being I'm old, fuck you, here's a coin trick for the opening, but then it thematically summarizes
the whole thing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's fucking great. And the best part is he doesn't even have to do a good magic trick because he has editing on his side. But to me, it's like this film just kind of flies in the face of like, what is fucking genre? Yeah. It doesn't matter. What's the movie trying to say? Yeah. That's the important thing to me. Because we've had that discussion a lot. Not both on and off camera. This whole idea of like, what is art? You know, this movie asks over and over again, what is art? And to me, yes, something can be art without having something to say, but to me, interesting art is art that's trying to like make a statement on something, even if it's a very personal statement.
Even if it's like a very simple statement, just told very grandiosely, I guess, with a bit of grandiose, I should say. Yeah. Fucking no, I really do like when stories do that sort of thing, when they just break boundaries between genres and kind of mix it up, because it allows you to do things that are not really possible with either genre. You know, the obvious one is like found footage stuff. Yeah. Like found footage where they try to convince you, at least for the moment, that what you're seeing on camera is real and the way that it is being presented is real. And you know, these sorts of things, they're great when it happens in like a Blair Witch Project.
Or hey, movie we saw recently. We got 2 posters on that I helped fund through its Kickstarter. Go watch Shelby Oaks, motherfuckers. It should still be in theaters, even if it's not. Find it when it comes out.
By some miracle, if it's still in theaters, go watch it.
We loved it. I have a bit of a bias. He did not fund this movie in the slightest. We will make a video about Shelby Oaks at some point where we will discuss his weird personal experience with it. Don't want to spoil that yet. No. No, I mean, Shelby Oaks is a fucking perfect example of that shit. So, the use of cinematography, and when I say mixed medium, I mean stuff like 16mm, 35mm, live action footage shot of real people, rehearsed stuff, scripted stuff, and editing. What I think this movie creates is a very offbeat, surreal, quirky, and very funny experience.
Yeah, if you just let it happen to you, it puts you in like a fugue state that is very enjoyable. Yeah. That is the part about this movie that I could see people deeply hating.
They're fucking... Shut up, nerd. Play the fucking clip.
Go outside, nerd. Get out. Go. I ain't got time to be distracted by your worthless chime-ins. Go on.
If you're missing the forest of the trees, if you're not like letting the media that you're watching just be what it is, and you're kind of stuck on like, wait a minute, is this real? Is it not real? If you're like so particular about it, I could see truly, genuinely hating this film and putting it up there as like one of those worst films ever, or like a one final flop by Orson Welles.
Which, you know, I think Welles is like aware that could be the perception, because there's at one point where I don't remember which character is saying this, but they're referring to someone like critics or something as pompous and pretentious, and right when the word pompous says, Welles hard cuts to a shot of himself. Like, to me, that is the magic of editing. I have talked about this so many times on this show. Editing is the most underappreciated art form because at its slickest, it should be invisible. That being said, you can be a little bit of a cocky shit, and your editing is very noticeable. No. Good editing should be noticeable when it's done for comedic stuff. And granted, I am probably noticing this because I edit a lot. And what I do for this show is not the same as like feature editing, but it is similar in this movie, because the thing I love about this movie's editing is sort of, well, once again, this use of like mixed media between like 35-16 real found footage is how Welles will do call and response things between 2 clips that have nothing to do with each other. Yeah. There's so many interviews that are of 2 separate people in 2 separate locations having conversations with each other.
And came back with the verdict that they were absolutely genuine. And in fact, were horrified that I wanted to sell them.
But that's a true story. The story is absolutely true. Well, Mr. Irving pretends that he destroyed them. I don't think so. Mr. Irving's character is exactly a character who would destroy something what he got an offer of 15,000. I think it's a nice security in a bank vault what could be unwrapped in 15 years again.
All the tales he tells now are things that he has built up in his imagination over the years and come to believe as true.
Based off of Welles being like, I can manipulate this footage.
I can make you look like a fool.
Yeah, cut to the welcome to the basement.
I could edit you to look like a fool. So, it's when you know, it's if I may turn the topic here, that's he was there was. See?
But I don't know, I just think all that stuff's brilliant. Welles loves a freeze frame in this to emphasize for comedic effect, which is weirdly enough, I want to bring up just like internet culture. Man, this feels modern. Because some of this stuff is edited like a fucking YouTube poop.
Exactly. A lot of these shots where he pauses on someone's face looking a bit odd or a bit silly is the literal equivalent. It's the literal equivalent of saying like, your argument is sound, but I have drawn you as a Wojak, so now your argument is invalid.
It's literally just putting the picture of the guy putting on clown makeup below someone's tweet.
Yeah.
Like, Welles is being a shit poster.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that so fucking much.
Fucking 70 years ahead of time.
I know, once again, and that, you know, I guess gets into the whole thing. We've talked a bit about this. Welles the man versus Welles the main character. Mm-hmm. So we'll never truly know Orson Welles. I feel like probably a lot of his friends never knew Orson Welles.
Yeah.
But Welles the persona is a fascinating motherfucker. You and I have sat eating lunch or dinner together sometimes with on the TV just an hour and a half like talk show interview of this man just speaking with a big cigar in his mouth, saying something witty. And even if, like, this isn't necessarily who the man was, it doesn't matter because it's, like, who the public perceived him as.
Yeah.
And that's what got him to be famous. It's what made Citizen Kane, outside of the film itself, so endearing, I think, because he puts that persona in the movie. Charles Foster Kane, in his younger years, it's just Orson. Mm-hmm. And that... I don't know, there's just like an endearing quality to that, to where it's like Welles has been dead for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And like, yes, no, it's sad, and it sucks, and it's a bit ironic that his last role was him playing a toy for a fucking toy commercial.
Yeah.
A theatrically released toy commercial. But also, I feel like he'd find comedy in that. Yeah, I don't know, and then like, with like Welles... like the man versus the persona, okay, then you ask, like, if that persona is not the real him, Welles himself addresses himself as a faker because, as Picasso says, and he says in that, all art is a lie. Because all art is artifice. Mm-hmm. Welles is then a faker. Yeah. You know, he goes back far enough into his history. This is something I brought up in the Citizen Kane episode as sort of a setup for this. Mm-hmm. Where Welles' entire career started, as he said, I started on the top and I've been working my way down ever since.
Oh, I guess I could have found myself an honest job as a dishwasher or something, but no, I took the easy way. I went on the stage. I'd never been on the stage, but I told them in Dublin I was a famous star from New York and somehow got them to believe me. That's how I started. Began at the top and have been working my way down ever since. If acting is an art, cooking up that bogus Broadway career was a fine case of art forgery.
He went into a small production of a theater thing saying that, oh, I am a famous Broadway actor in New York. The internet doesn't fucking exist. No one can check this.
Yeah.
So they just kind of take his word for it, and he's charismatic enough that he can fucking get the job. And it doesn't really make a difference. So then, from there on, it's like, okay, he goes from that to the radio, to Hollywood, and all these things, where he's getting less and less power as he kind of goes down about that. But the art he's making, as a result of him having less power, is more and more and more experimental. His War of the Worlds broadcast is accidentally a fake. Whether or not he intended it to be something that caused mass hysteria, and the historical logistics behind that, and how accurate a lot of those reports are, whether or not it was blown up by Welles himself over the years, doesn't matter. So Welles' entire career has kind of been built on lies, in a similar way to Amir, and that's why I feel, to a certain extent, I think Welles empathizes with Amir a lot. I think he paints him out to be not as big of a bad guy as I think he easily could with the editing. Oh, yeah. Once again, you could edit someone to look like an asshole. But he edits Amir to be a shit poster like him. You know, all these things to where he goes like, Amir has never admitted on camera that he's been a faker, and he's not verbally admitting, but he has footage of him fucking painting a fake Picasso and then using smoke in the fire to age it. Like, he's filming him doing this shit. But then you ask, in that sense, then it's like, okay, is he defaming and would ultimately lead to Amir killing himself by filming him doing this shit? I didn't look into this, but I'm curious if there were actually any kind of, like, I guess, like, if there was, like, any, like, logistical findings into this film contributing towards the government almost getting him.
I don't know. It's one of those things they said in the movie, like, basically the only reason he got away with it when he was tried in France was because you have to have 2 witnesses in the room that can say they watched it happen.
Oh my God, did Wells do the original KYS?
Jesus.
This is awful. Oh my God.
You can get really shallow and pedantic about it if you want and say, like, what art is truly in any way, shape, or form actually representative of the real world, right?
Yeah.
You have, like, realist paintings of people, like, working out in the fields and harvesting, like, hay and harvesting grains for the winter. But, you know, you look at that painting and you can get an idea for how people were living, but you don't really get an inkling of an idea of what it was like to be there on that day painting that painting in particular.
Yeah.
You know, those people were real and they lived real lives and they really did do that day's work, but you could never really understand what it was like to hold the sickle. You could never really understand what it was like to smell the air, and you could never really understand what it was like to make the decisions that were made in order to best represent that day. So, you know, it's all bullshit for you to fucking complain. I don't know, man. Just live with it, I guess.
Now, Tony, I know you may think you don't have a lot to talk about here, but I have a few things, not necessarily with the artist, but the use of how stuff was done. Cameron, just shut off for now. We have a personal guest, but he doesn't want anyone to show his face because we don't want to show an apparition.
Oh shit!
On
there he
screen.
Is. Oh my God!
It's Orson Welles introducing Tony's Musical Hour. Tony, I know a lot of the music here is very clearly, obviously, a lot of, like, pre-orchestrated pieces. I would assume probably a lot of classical music. I honestly didn't look that much into it. But I really do think, in sort of like a vaudevillian sense, the use of music in the background for what could be fairly boring background chatter almost makes it more comedic.
There's an argument to be made that a movie soundtrack is its own entity. I've thought this before. I don't know if I've ever brought it up on the show. That when you buy, like, a soundtrack from a movie, like, I don't know, Tron, you know, okay, well, there's this track that's written by fucking by Daft Punk, and there's this one, and there's this one. You cut them up that way.
Yeah.
But I like to think of the soundtrack as its own full hour and a half, however long, entity.
Yeah.
That had to be constructed from one moment down to the last. And this movie is a perfect, like, representation of that, because there's just chunks and bits and pieces of God knows what kinds of fucking tracks from what records from where that all come together.
The music, like the film itself, is sort of assembled piecemeal.
Yeah, and it's totally fits within the story that's being told. That, I don't know, maybe some of these are original pieces made just for this one thing, you know? It's very possible.
Some possible names for music right here.
And that person kind of plays a part as an individual artist in the creation of this film.
Once again, kind of playing this whole thing into, like, why as well as an auteur? Well, because he accumulates all these different people, including Oya.
No.
His mistress. Oya co-wrote a lot of this stuff with him. She's fucking funny. Like, I'm like
how much of the ogling of her own ass is like her decision.
I don't know, but you know what?
They're laughing it up somewhere.
Yeah. Wells, as like a 60-something with his 24-year-old girlfriend, being like, "Yes, I did that." It's a little pig-headish, but I think it's fucking funny. Who is your favorite person in this film to like just think about and examine? And in that same boat, is that favorite person a part of your favorite sequence? And what is your favorite sequence?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Like I said, this movie's a fugue state, so like I could cut back and forth. I like the section where they're talking to a possibly fake Mr. Hughes. There's where he's not even on camera. He's just the microphone speaking over. I like that a lot.
But this lady-killing, wheeling-dealing, death-defying, life-defying mystery man supreme has a strange habit of winning somehow. Sometimes, anyway. Just at the end. Is he winning now? The end of this story.
I only wish I were still in the movie business.
Our semi-mythological nightbird of a billionaire has flown his Vegas coop.
I like all the segments where they break back to Orson Welles' War of the Worlds audio and all that sort of thing. I don't know if there's like a specific person that I pin down and say I like them the most, because you know you look at it in isolation, and this whole story's not very interesting without someone else, right? It's not really as interesting if you don't start with Oya like walking down a street with her ass out and being ogled or being ogled.
Yeah.
That sets up the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. My perspective on that, my favorite person of this is the most obvious person. It's who's on the cover, who's in the poster. It's Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Orson Welles is always the most interesting thing of the stuff that he's in. And, you know, he's in so much of it, but for me, the most Orson Wellesian sequence is where it transitions from him talking about his upbringing into the cathedral. To me, that's where the movie sort of like, if you didn't get its thesis beforehand, it sort of states how Welles very clearly feels about the topic.
Yeah.
Does the artist fucking matter? And we talked about this already, but I do think it's something that's interesting because he goes and he talks about, like, you know, hundreds of years from now when everything's, you know, crumbled to ruin. And we've all fucking, like, been long dead. And, you know, maybe this whole sphere of information, this whole, like, internet full of supposed experts, when that's all fucking gone.
Yeah.
What are the facts going to be? And will this movie exist in some facet where no one can read English or understand it and they just see the visual images? Do we know who Orson Welles is?
Yeah. God, you know, there's a little gold disc floating around somewhere in space. We like to think that maybe someday someone somehow will see it and try to interpret our meaning from it. But, you know, and on any given day, it could just get hit with a rock and stop being. And, you know, there's also the possibility that we will continue on, that we will live for much longer than our pessimistic ideas for ourselves, you know. Everyone's worried about 7,000 years of this, 7 more to go. But maybe we do last a lot longer than we think we're going to. Maybe we break the odds and we multiply across the galaxy, maybe this whole universe. At some point in time, you could always just say, well, everything's destined for dust, right? The whole thing, the whole shebang, every star that you're looking at in the night sky is already dead, so on and so forth. What's the point? Well, I think the art is the point, and trying to determine what art is, that's part of the point of why we're here.
And with that, I think auteurship in itself, well, it has its problematic angles. We got a lot of people, you know, such as, let's say, like Roman Polanski, who's a piece of shit, bad person. Made some of the most iconic films of all time, though, that have weirdly pro-women themes, even if they convey themes of, like, violence against women on screen. That film, I would hope, outlasts his own legacy, but it would also only exist in the fashion it does because his hand is at it. And in a similar way, yes, no, we have a lot of individual men being pieces of shit and making great art.
No.
And a lot of great people making great art. I think what makes auteur theory in its best sense as good as it possibly can be is through the conveying of an individual's vision put together by a bunch of separate, really talented people towards this one goal that this train is ramming towards. Mm-hmm. We are then being demonstrated the diversity of humanity's talents.
No.
And if anything, while that may be a bit optimistic as like what you're saying is, I think that's the best possible view you can have on something like auteur theory, and the best possible view you can have on something like art. Anyways, Tony, on the ending of the year of the auteur, I hope we learned something, both you and I. I hope I showed you some important art. I hope you enjoyed whatever I showed you.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone who maybe watched something that they wouldn't have watched because of this, or you revisited a classic or watched along with us. I hope everyone had a valuable experience if you followed us along. And while we got Tony's episode for the final episode of this season, go ahead and join us in January for my next episode, where we go ahead and discuss something that we discussed a little bit in this episode. Something a bit more broad. Does genre matter?